Welcome to Momentum's virtual training series, where we invite expert facilitators to share their knowledge on topics that advance women in leadership.
Andrea, I'm going to turn this over to you. Thank you for being here with Momentum Leaders and with all of our supporters.
Thank you, Darla. Well, Darla, thank you again for the invitation to be here. I'm really excited to see some familiar names in the chat. And the reason why that's important to me is because what I'm sharing in this presentation, for those who are just meeting me today, it may sound like the story just started today. But in reality, what I'm sharing with you started a good bit ago. And so I'm really thankful that several people that's in the chat may be able to relate to what I'm sharing because they've been able to be a part of somewhat of this journey with me. And so my hope is that I can pour some lessons into each of you so that you are able to find the value and the strength in your voice and be able to lead with confidence. Because I will tell you from experience, it is a journey and it is something I'm very excited about. So if you look on the screen, I ask you all to think about this as you're coming into the room today. As you're coming in, where is your mindset? Is this conversation for you about career growth? Is it about I'm looking about more confidence? I need leadership clarity. I feel stuck right now. I'm just ready for what's next. Drop in the chat for us where your mindset is. And regardless of how you answer that, that's how you're showing up. And that's important because I think it's always going to be important for us to know when we're entering into these conversations, what is the mindset? What is the framework that we're coming from so that we'll know where we're starting? So I just would like to be able to see and hear how that looks for many of you here today. So as I get started with the conversation,
I
there
love
we go.
what I'm seeing here.
Yeah.
So confidence and clarity, growth, feeling a bit overwhelmed, looking for self-development to pour into the team, or confidence, feeling stuck. I think we've got a little bit of everything across the board, Andrea.
Yep. And the thing is, I chose those because those are very common feelings that we have as professionals in different stages of our careers. So I really hope that today's conversation will help us unpack some of that and really thinking about where you are right now and thinking about where you're wanting to go. So something else I'm curious for you to answer as you think about the journey you're on, just take a quick pulse. Just think about where you are. And if you had to think about your career, your leadership journey, I know exactly where I'm headed today. I am that girl, or I'm successful, but something feels off about, I walk into the room, I can't quite figure out what's going on. I know I'm capable of more, but I'm not really sure what that feels like, or I'm figuring out what's next. That's something else I'm interested in because no matter what you select, ladies, and there could be some gentlemen in the room, no matter what you select, you're exactly where you're supposed to be today. Because as I mentioned, this is really about a journey that we're all on. And so I can just go ahead and tell you that when Darla and I were preparing for this conversation today, when I have the opportunity to have these conversations, no matter where I am in my journey, this is a really good tune up for me because it allows me to ask the questions of myself that says, where am I today? Where do I feel I need to do a little bit of a check-in? So despite, where you may be on your journey, sometimes we all have the feeling of not really sure, what's next and what we want to be focused on. So sometimes I get the question of where does make you new even come from? And I'll tell you all this real quick. When I first decided to be a consultant and I named my business Make You New, I was presenting some things to a couple of men and they said, wait, stop the presentation. We're not interested in makeup. And I went, okay, this is not landing well. Let me reset. But this is really not so much about don't get stuck on the title. It's really more about the journey. The day I had to make me new was the day that I had invested 14 years in a career that I thought I was thriving in. Clearly, something was wrong, and I was missing some very important cues, and I just missed it. I made changes to my life. My identity was tied to my title. I thought in that organization, to be at that title must mean that I've arrived. I'm that girl. And when an unexpected transition happened, it changed everything for me. And for me, it was one of those moments where I realized that I had lost perspective of really who Andrea is, who was I? I had lost perspective of the impact that it was having on my family. I lost perspective of, I sort of lost that compass of who I am because I was working so hard to show up for what I thought others needed out of me. And so the day that I got the news that you are no longer needed here changed my life forever. And it changed it in a way that, yeah, it knocked me off my feet, ladies. I'm not gonna lie to you. It took me some days to really figure out what I'd been so used to seeing and doing for such a long time no longer existed. And my identity was so wrapped up into that that it had me going, what do I do next? And so then the question became, who am I when my title is gone? And I don't know, many of you may be in the room, and quite often, sometimes the first question people may ask you after they ask your name, what do you do? Or what's your title? Because people tend to add value or associate value with that title. And I became a part of that. I got sucked into that mindset. So that question became the foundation of everything that you'll experience today. Because when losing my job of something that I had identified with for 14 years happened to me, just like I'm sure it happened to probably many people on this call, it really forced me to reevaluate where am I going and what am I doing and what is my real value and how I show up. And that's really how Make You New was born. It was with the idea of I needed to find a way to pour back into me and pour back into others who may be experiencing or have experienced the same kind of trauma. So here's the deal about this whole identity of, well, who am I? Because there's a hidden challenge that we all face. The problem isn't about the lack of the talent. What we start showing up is the idea of, do I sort of downplay my credentials? So here's the way I look at it when I think about how we're challenged and showing up in the room. So we show up with the experience, but then we have self-doubt when someone points it out to us. Or we have the credentials, we have the skills, we have the results, but somehow, when we're in the room or we're around other people, we allow some of those other voices to get louder to us than what we really, or how we're really showing up in the room. And so that self-doubt, our visibility in the rooms that we're showing up in, our confidence, it gets sort of, other voices take over for us. We feel misaligned in terms of what we're doing every day. The narrative of I'm not enough is a loud voice, ladies, I'm telling you. And what I've recognized in this process is this: the gap isn't about what's on the resume. It's about the story that I've been telling myself. What am I saying in terms of how I'm showing up? And so when a change happened to me in my in my career that forced me to have to do something, it really forced me to reevaluate what is it really that I'm showing up with? What is the value add? What is the voice that I've been allowing to play the narrative in my head for such a long time that I've had to figure out how to reset, put a new album on the record player, if you will. So why is this happening? What I've learned is we were taught to fit in. Now, I've noticed some of the company names on here. I don't know everybody's roles and what you're doing, but I'll speak from my experience in working with a lot of ladies who are in different levels of leadership. We are taught to fit in because we think that's the way, we'll be liked. How people feel about us is important to us. So you cannot lead authentically while performing someone else's definition of success. I'll tell you from Andrea's perspective, I was performing at the level that I thought others wanted out of me. I lost sight of how do I truly need to show up. So I need to step back and think about my authentic voice and what is that definition of success for Andrea so that I'm able to show up that way strongly every day. What is that narrative that I'm playing in my voice? And for many years, women shape themselves around what do others expect of me? What does the boss expect of me? What does the organization, how does the organization reward certain behaviors? What do others define as success? And so I had to learn how to quiet those voices down for me and really figure out who is the authentic Andrea and how do I shine? You know, when I think about the times that I feel really invigorated and I feel I'm really doing my best, when was that happening? Can I point out, what that looked like for myself so that I can get more of that? And I really had to work hard to redefine what that narrative looks like for me. So I thought about this framework, and while there's a lot of work that goes in behind it, I thought let's just keep it simple. And the Make You New method really just addresses an approach three ways. It's the awareness. How and who am I really? Have I lost that? Am I clear? Have I asked that question of myself? When was the last time I asked that question of myself? So, first is awareness. Number two is alignment. What matters most to me? Because once I realized the things that I was able to do really well and I got really excited about and I got a lot of energy around, that's when I saw results that were very different from when I was doing things that others desired of me or others expected of me to do. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand in the work that we do when we're working for other people, we have expectations that we must perform. So please don't misunderstand my message. What I'm really trying to highlight here is there's a way to execute on things that you're expected to do, but in a way that's authentic to yourself, because we want to make sure we're walking in alignment that speaks to our strengths. So number two is the alignment there. What matters most to me? And then number three is the action. How do I show up fully so that people really get the most out of me every time I'm interacting or they're interacting with me? So that's our roadmap. That's really what the Make You New framework is all about: awareness, alignment, and action, so that we really have the ability to walk in our true, authentic voice. So let's start with the first takeaway: clarity on your authentic strengths. The, the thing about the experience that I share with you all, and I'm going to be honest and say this, it took me a long time to be able to walk in the truth that said I was no longer needed in an organization. After losing my job, and people would ask, well, why aren't you there anymore? I had to figure out a way to spin that story because I was embarrassed. I was identified so long with that organization or that role or whatever that might be, that's how I lost myself. And so I was embarrassed to be able to tell my true story. But you know what really made me feel so light? When I was able to really evaluate and tell the story of, this is my lesson learned. This is the journey that I was on, and this is where I lost myself, and this is my lesson. Because now I'm able to walk in a more authentic way in who I am. So I'm able to show up in a way that I bring clarity in what I do every day. I wake up every day with intentionality and purpose and clarity of what I'm doing. And I feel energized by that work that I do. Because what I recognize is leadership starts with knowing what you already bring. The mistake I was making is I was waiting for someone to validate that instead of standing in the things that I felt really good about. I needed to make sure that I leaned more into that. So recognizing what are your authentic strengths? Have you thought about that lately? Or are we just sort of in that mode of I'm doing the same thing every day and we've lost sight of really what your strengths are? Have you thought about that lately? Because I do want to ask you to think about this. Your leadership signature is really thinking about it from the perspective of your strengths are clues. They're not coincidences. So when's the last time you were around somebody and they said, oh my goodness, Tamika, you really do a great job of engaging people with X. Hey, did you hear it? And did you go, oh, I'm not really that good at it? Or did you stand in it and you think, that, you know what, I do really enjoy, I am really good at engaging people. I am really good at connecting the dots. See, oftentimes we get those compliments and people tell us what we're doing really well, and we sort of brush it off in a way that we don't believe we should own it. When you're getting clues all the time, it's not a coincidence when people see those things in you. So think about a time when you felt completely in your element. What were you doing? What strengths were you using? What did others consistently rely on you for? I know for me, I remember this so vividly. I was working in Mississippi and I was conducting some training for a program we were doing for all employees. And I remember consistently getting feedback that was so positive. But for me, because that wasn't my primary role, I kept brushing it off, going, oh, well thanks. I appreciate it. And one day I had my facilitator guide in front of me. And I opened up my book and as I normally do, I got prepared to start my class. And in my facilitator guide, there was a piece of paper that fell out. And that piece of paper said, Andrea changes lives for women. And it was signed by my husband. And the reason why that still gets me, because that's been many years ago, I'm sorry. The reason why that still gets me is because for so long, you downplay the things that you get excited about. And every time I had the opportunity to get up in front of those people and pour into them that training, I got excited about it and others saw it. So I want to encourage each of you, when someone points out an authentic talent or an authentic strength that you bring, stand in it because they're giving you a clue. Don't brush it away. Don't try to minimize it. Own it and stand in it because you are walking in a path that could be your authentic self and that people want more of that. So stand in that strength. So take a moment and think about when you felt really good, what were you doing? What was happening? And what did people say? Because they're seeing it in you. Think about this as well. When people come to you, they count on you for what? What are some things that people consistently they can count on you for? Is it they like you give great advice? You're a great problem solver? You have great organization skills, relationship building? What do people usually come to you for? I'm gonna look at some notes here in the chat. Let's see. Okay, I'm seeing encouragement. People are coming to you for encouragement, advice, people, organization skills, they're coming to you because they see something in you. So don't downplay it. So what you're known for is not an accident. It's your leadership signature. It's what people know you for. So I want you to own that so that people get more of that. And you know what else I've learned too? Once I began to learn how to walk in that authenticity, it allowed me to want to learn how to do that more. How do I become more effective in that thing? So it's something that I made an investment in for myself, personally and professionally, because what it told me is I'm on a good track to doing something that's really impacting other people. So if people are giving you those clues, bite into that and invest in how do you become more effective in those areas.
Andrea, I'm loving seeing thank you. Y'all keep adding. This is empowering for all of us to see that everyone that's on this call has all these special skill sets, advice, problem solving, strategy, organization, creativity, and advice. Thank you for adding this in. One thing that I used to do, Andrea, when people would compliment me, is I'd overlook it and I just go, "Oh, well, thank you." And I thought everyone else was doing the same thing that I was doing, and it's not true. So I'm
Mhm.
so glad that you've made us put this into writing
Mhm.
today. Thank you.
Yes, yes, for sure. I'm loving to see. Oh, somebody said there, your calm presence. We need you, Nia. We need that calm presence.
Yes.
One of those days you're like, I just want to go to somebody's office and talk to them about it. So lean into it. The other thing here in terms of reframing, that whole leadership signature is leadership is not a position. And many of you probably know this by now in your journey, but some of you may be starting out and not really sure, the path you want to be on. But I do like to say this to a lot of people that leadership is not a position, it's influence. And the reason I like to point this out is because when I've made presentations to people and they'll go, well, I don't have the ability to change any of that. I'm just this position. And what I like to tell people is grow where you're planted because everywhere you are, there's an ability for you to make an impact. So those people that are around you, think about your sphere of influence. People are coming to you for a reason. So grow where you're planted, because oftentimes you're chasing a title, but how about we really invest in the skill that we need to develop so that people feel or they can be, you're the go-to person that people feel comfortable with. Because y'all probably know this as well. Just because that person has a title doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to influence me, because I don't trust them, I fear them, all those things. So it's not just about a title. So some of you may be doing things, Darla mentioned this, mentoring others, leading projects. You may have a side business that, man, your 9 to 5 is paying your bills, but your side business is what's like sort of invigorating you. That's that's great, because we all need to find that outlet of something to do that gets us excited about or energized about something. Volunteering your expertise. I'm going to pause here and tell you why I put this on here. When I lost my job, one of the first things you naturally would start thinking about is finding another job. And while I did that, where I really got most excited is when I stopped thinking about finding another job to make money. And when I started having opportunities to volunteer and pour back into women who didn't have the same resources to get to this type of information like I did. So when my mindset changed from Drea, let's find a way to make Drea whole again, and it switched to how do I pour back into someone else who may not have the same opportunity, it was amazing how less stressed I was about my situation, because I felt I was doing something that was more meaningful than just spending my day poring over how sad my life was after I lost my job. Like, you have to have a paradigm shift so that you can move the needle there. And supporting someone through change. These are things or ways that you can influence other people. It's not about a title. So where are you already leading right now? Are you mentoring people, helping people, giving advice? Many of you have been really blessed and fortunate that you've been able to participate in professional development opportunities. Find a way to pour that back into someone else that you see that's on just a similar journey, that they may not get those same opportunities. So I just think that this is powerful when we're able to share resources with other people. So once you understand your strengths, the next question becomes, are you using them in a way that aligns with what matters most? And the reason I like this transition statement is because I started thinking about this when I putting this whole program together. I started thinking about, all right, so I know what my strengths are. I know that these are things I do really well, but where does it fit? Where does it, what do I do with that information? And so the next part of the conversation is really about, do you have values-based alignment that aligns with what you're doing? And that's why I said earlier, sometimes I'm just keeping it real. Sometimes we have to work a 9 to 5 because we've got to work a 9 to 5. But we also find other ways that we can align the things that we do really well in a way that's different from our 9 to 5. But are you willing to put in the work? Are you willing to find how that looks for you? And it's exhausting, because who's got more time in the day to do more stuff? But here's what I learned about for me. When I started doing things that I got really excited about, I would lose track of time because I wanted more of that. And the more of that that I did, the more of that I got. And it kept coming to me because that's what I kept sort of putting my energy in. So for me, I started having to figure out how to realign and get into spaces where I could do more of the things that I do really well. And I'm really happy to be able to say, I'm that girl now. I used to be shy about saying that because I would think, I don't want to be I don't want to sound like I'm bragging or whatever, but I'm happy to be able to say, in my lane, in my space, I'm that girl and I own it, because I want to continue to pour and invest more and more into that for myself. Because success without alignment is just a beautiful cage. You look great with that title, but it's just a beautiful cage. And I speak truth to that statement because I lived it. Okay. And if I didn't say this already, everything in my presentation is true to form. I really hope y'all feel that and know that. So the real question is, you can be successful and you could still feel lost. because you got the promotions. You've got the purchasing card. You're going on all the business trips. You're in the cliques with all the right people, and you've got the money, and you look great. I love your bag. I love your shoes, and then your hair looks great. All that looks great. But that's the beautiful cage I'm talking about, because you're successful on the outside, but inside you're drained because you're not in alignment with where you really should be based on the strengths you bring, where your authenticity really lies. You're just sort of walking through a process that others want you to be in, or that's because that's what others expect of you. And I get it to a certain degree, that's what you have to do. But where do you find that time or that outlet that allows you to be able to align yourself and do things in a way that we can get the most out of you? So the work doesn't excite you. Why? Why aren't you excited about it? The path no longer fits who you're becoming. What's going on? When was the last time you did some inventory to ask yourself that question? I look great, but I feel misaligned and it's draining. I know it is. And the thing is, when you go home or wherever you go after work, somebody is counting on you to be your very best all the time. Are they getting that? Because you're drained. You're not in alignment where you need to be. So success and fulfillment, they are not the same thing, but you deserve both. It's going to require, however, the work to do it, to figure it out. Ask yourselves those real questions. Ask others around you. Oftentimes, when I do assessments with people and I have them read their report, they'll say, this is not me. This is not, I'll say, tell somebody else, let somebody else read your report. They'll tell you because we have blind spots. So let somebody else give you some feedback on it as well. Somebody sees where you're thriving and somebody knows that you're in a beautiful cage and you just don't want people to tell you because who wants to rock the world right now, right? So, what matters most to you right now? You don't have to share, you're welcome to share in the chat. But think about this, think about the thing that sort of is your compass. What matters most to you right now? What's guiding you as you think about the day to day decisions you make about your career, who you interact with, how you volunteer, the things that you do day in and day out? Do I go back to school? Whatever that might be. What's guiding you or what has been guiding you? So these are just a few things. Now, this list could go on and on and on. Now, some people are putting in the chat, I'm
I wanted to
loving.
ask you something, Andrea. Can
Yes,
I pull up something that Tiki had asked here a minute
yes,
ago, which is very important for us to take a pause here. Is it possible to be drained but still be excited? I'm sure it's a balancing issue, but I do enjoy what I do. It's just taxing.
yes.
So how can you tell the difference between that and knowing this isn't what is fulfilling? Or is that? How can she address that?
No, that's a great, you said that was Tika?
Yes.
Tika, you actually answered your question when you said I'm drained, but I enjoy what I do. See, there's a difference in there's a difference in the path you're walking and a path of someone like me. The path that I was in, I was excited because I was growing, like I was on the path of upward mobility. But what I recognize is I somehow couldn't figure out how to make it work for me in a way that I saw others thriving. So I was checking boxes, and I think others around me, they were checking boxes with me, but I wasn't necessarily walking in my truth. See, I was walking in a path that said, if you're going to work in this organization and you want to be at this level, these are the steps you must take. But what I realized is that is, while great, I I'm not thriving in the space that I went home and felt great every day. I just felt that I was checking a box and I knew I was missing something. So Tika, the difference for you is you're thriving in a space that you get energized from. What you want to do, however, is figure out that outlet to make sure it's not burning you out, because now that's a different conversation of resiliency and burnout. But when you're doing things that you do well, you get on, people come to you, you're seen as the expert in the room, and you thrive in that space. Like that's a different conversation than someone who's doing it because they were told to check a box in order to move to the next level. So
Yeah.
balance the burnout and resiliency conversation in that case.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrea.
So I've asked you guys to think about, which of these three matters the most to you. And I'll share with you, I couldn't narrow mine down to three. I kept going and going. I'm like, the list can go on, but these are some of my top three. And the reason why these were for me is because when I was losing my way and I relocated 3 times, that's actually how I ended up here in Birmingham. I'm originally from Atlanta, but I lost my way. I started, my priorities were out of whack. So, when I highlight these things, it's because I realized that the reason why things weren't working out for me anymore is because I lost my way. I wasn't following my own internal compass. I wasn't gut checking myself. I was allowing the external things around me to drive what I did next. And I know you guys are probably thinking a lot about me right now. I don't know. I may be sharing way too much, but I'm sharing this because it was a way for me to really do a self-evaluation or reevaluation and finding out where I sort of, well, I got out of alignment with what really was my North Star. You probably have heard that. And these are things that if I think about working in anything, if I can't fulfill those things that are highlighted here, I don't get excited about it. It's just not for me. I can do it for a little bit, but it's not the thing that propels me every day. It's not my motivating driver that gets me excited all the time. So I had to come back to this is the stuff that gets me excited. So I hope you all think about that all the time, just making sure that you're doing things that really lends itself to your values. That's your compass. And when decisions feel hard, come back to those. And that's what I didn't do. I didn't come back to those. I went back to the thing that I kept thinking was taking me to the next thing. And inevitably it failed me because I didn't follow a system that was true to Andrea. So I hope I'm not putting anybody in a sad place right now.
No, I love what you're sharing, and everybody is enjoying this. We appreciate you're being honest and authentic. So I feel like everything that you've been teaching, you're showing us what this looks like.
So thank you for that, Darla. The alignment gap, we talk about this path that we're on, think about this question too. Where are you out of alignment right now? Whether you think about your 9 to 5 or your side gig or you're in school, whatever that might be, here are some questions to help you figure out if you might be, because this is where you're needing to tap back into those core values that we just talked about. Rating right now. What are you forcing? What are you avoiding? These are questions that if you ask yourself and if you're true to yourself, can help you really get to where real change might be needed for yourself. And I already said this before. Sometimes having the conversation with yourself first helps, and then go to others that you trust because you need to maybe have a baseline of here's what I'm thinking. You're seeing some things in me. What are you noticing about me? Do you see that I'm whatever that question might be? So I typically would recommend starting with self conversation, then sharing these questions with people that you trust to ask them where they may see, because honest answers here at the beginning, this is where it starts to help you with real change in identifying where you may be out of alignment. So, where are you trying to force something that no longer fits who you are becoming? And I'm going to say, sit with that for a moment. Now, if we were in person, I'd make you feel really uncomfortable if I make you sit with that for a moment. But I do want you to ask think about that for yourself. Where are you trying to force something that no longer fits who you are becoming? Because that may no longer be serving you well. And that's okay. Because takeaway 3, confidence to lead authentically. Because confidence, we've talked about understanding your strengths. We've talked about understanding alignment, but the courage to embody confidence and thinking about, how you feel every day is something else that, quite frankly, takes a lot of work here, because confidence isn't something you wait for. It's something that you have to build. It's an action that we have to invest in. And so as I work with ladies in different parts or different places in their journey, something that my aha moment in working with them is how I got to this information here. that when I had to think about how do you reframe confidence, because oftentimes we hear people say, be confident. And you go, well, how do you just be confident? Because confidence is not a feeling, it's a practice. And that's the thing I started to learn when I would talk to ladies about, well, what does that feel like or look like for you? Because if I just say, go be confident, it doesn't happen that way. So the myth is confidence leads to action. I'll act, when I feel ready. But the reality is action leads to confidence because I build confidence by acting anyway. So don't wait to feel confident, act in it. And the more you do that thing and you get that feedback from people, you start to feel good about the output. You see the outputs are impacting other people around you. The more you do it, the confidence follows. And then you'll do more of that. And then you'll be ready to do it even more boldly because you'll think, well, if I tried it this time and it worked fine, all right, let me put a little tweak in it. And I'm going to see if I can add a little gas to it and amp it up a little bit. So I really, really can't emphasize this enough that because I made the mistake of saying to people, just go be bold and it'll all come to you. But the reality is it is about an action that we must take in order for us to feel that way. So the confidence shift that we talk about in our sessions has to do with owning it. What strengths do I bring to this moment? Voice it. What needs to be said by me right now? I just finished talking to a young lady. We were talking about the emotional intelligence. And one of the things that we've been talking about is I feel that something needs to be done, but what's the action that I take? Do I just sit on it or do I find a way to address that thing because I know something needs to happen? So it's that finding that voice in a way that allows things to change around you and then act on it. What is that one action that I take, even if it's uncomfortable? Some of y'all may remember going on your first date with somebody. It was uncomfortable, but eventually you got your rhythm and you got your groove, and now the relationship is thriving. Same thing when you're doing something for the first time. It's not easy, but we can't avoid it because we're not building from that. So we want you to own it, voice it, and be able to act on it so you get more of it in what you're looking for. So I always like to ask people to think about something as a takeaway. You, again, write this down, share in the chat if you'd like. But the bold step I would take in the next 30 days is what? This is not a goal. This is your declaration of something you want to commit to doing in the next 30 days that will move the needle in your ability to be able to walk in your confidence and your authenticity and your boldness. All right. So here's what I know. When these three align, everything changes. When you think about identifying your strengths, what am I naturally gifted to do? And you walk in that thing, you own it, and you find a way to invest so you can get better in that thing, it changes everything for you. When you are aligned with your values, you are clear about what values matters most, and you walk in those things, it changes. And then the confidence, how will I show up? Do I act? Do I own it? Do I speak up? All those things will change for you. So when I put these three together, because I believe it just tells, it's a great way to see it all come together. When I started recognizing the strengths that I bring to the table or the room that I'm in, I started recognizing it and I started accepting it and embracing it. So when people tell me, hey, you do that thing, whatever that thing is, I now can accept it and embrace it because I want to hear more of that. And so now it propels me to want to figure out how do I get better at that thing. As I tell some of my some people I work with, I can joke with them, but I'll say I want to get gooder and gooder and gooder in that thing because it makes me feel really good. And then going back to the values and the confidence. So authentic leadership is not about becoming someone else. That's the mistake in the journey that I can relate to. It's about fully becoming who you already are. But it takes the work, it takes the time, pause, and really ask yourself those questions so that you can get more of that. So the Make You New challenge, use one strength intentionally every day. Some of you already put in the chat with some of the people that come to you for things about advice or your organization skills or your ability to calm others down, whatever that thing is. Be intentional about using one of your strengths every day, because then it gets finer, it gets sharper. Make one values-based decision this week, going back to those value words that I had up there earlier, and add to the list, because those are just a handful that I can resonate with. And take one courageous action before the month ends. So we're at midway. Y'all, this year is moving by fast. I want you all next year to be able to say, man, last year this time, I felt a little nervous about this thing, but today I'm that girl in that thing because I took these actions. But it requires you to have to be intentional. And I'm going to say this before I sort of wrap this up. You don't have to wait for a traumatic experience to occur in your life for you to make these changes. But the reality is sometimes that's what makes us change, because we'll kind of go, oh, it sort of shakes you and it rattles you up a little bit. But you don't have to wait for something like that to happen. You really can do an evaluation today, because many of you are showing up right now. If you are being true to yourself, many of you showed up today because you know something is out of alignment somewhere, or you need to make some tweaks. So you can certainly be able to do those things today. And it might require you to work with a trusted friend that can give you some feedback on where your blind spots might be or things that you've just had questions about. But I just encourage you, take this opportunity over the next 30 days and be intentional about these things here. So your story isn't over. It is just beginning. Just like for me, losing my job wasn't the end of my story. But oh my God, it felt like it, because that's all I knew for so many years. That was my way home, my way to work, my way home, my way to work. Like, that's what I knew. But it was the beginning of discovering who I was beyond the title. So something I'm going to leave you with: you do not need to become someone else to lead. You need to fully become who you already are. Darla, I can't say thank you enough for allowing me the space to do this, because as I said earlier, every time I get an opportunity to this particular topic, it is another tune up for me, and it excites me as well. And I appreciate all of the interactions that I saw in the chat. So with that said, I'm going to stop talking, and I'm happy to answer any questions, but otherwise I'll turn it back over to you, Darla.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Everyone's already saying thank you, and I do too. This has been amazing today. Everyone take a look at Andrea's website here and go and visit her at Andrea Lewis at Human Capital Services, LLC. Thank you so much, Andrea. I have learned so much today, and I've been very encouraged and empowered to take some very bold steps and to continue growing in what I'm doing. I'm very blessed to get to do the things that I'm doing right now. I want to encourage everyone, if you would please, if you've already taken a moment to download your feedback QR code, please fill out the feedback before you hop off. That's the best way to tell her thank you and to tell us thank you. I'm going to put this back up here one more time. Thank you, Andrea. It will be on our YouTube channel, so we want to thank everyone for doing that. And I'm
Momentum's virtual trainings are made possible with the support of Protective Life, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama, and America's Thrift. Find the full list of sponsors, as well as additional resources for women leaders, on our website at momentumleaders.org. Thanks for taking the time to invest in you, and remember to like, subscribe, and share our channel. We love reading thoughts and comments, so you can leave those for us here too. You can also connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn